Let's continue with this then. We have the amp case unwrapped and flattened down, and the inside and out. So we should be able to paint it black on the inside and get it, maybe tweed wrapping on the outside, which are really cool looking amps. What else can we pack into this space and make it work? So there are several things. Now here's one that we can take a look at. I'll just again go Alt Q and isolate. This is a really cool little piece of geometry that I worked with to make this work using the array modifier again. But if we go down to the line, what you're going to find it is the world's simplest piece of geometry. So it's really low resolution. I've simplified it greatly by taking the interpolation steps down to 0 on the line. And if I just turn off enable in viewport, you can literally see that it is, that. You don't even actually need to make both of these. You could have used an array modifier to generate the second one, and then another array modifier to make the rest of it. So it's actually possible to make it with just 2 array modifiers and 3 knots. In this case, I have 6 knots going. I then do the array modifier, which then arrays it out into this mesh all over the place. Of course, with the line, I've got the enable viewport turned on now. And the other one I've done is I make sure that you turn off cap, and that way that there's holes at all of the ends of them. And so, we array them out, spread them out all over the place. So we get them as many as we want. And then we vertex weld them. And then we stick some noise on it just to break it up a little bit. This can be a bit of an old amp. Now here's something to consider. In the line, I actually turned on generate mapping coordinates. That means that each little tiny section of this is just repeated with UV coordinates all over. And you've got to ask yourself, how close are we really going to get to this? Are we going to notice if the UVs are stretched on the side a little bit? Or is this just kind of some sort of, again, brownish color or something? Or is it just black? With a little bit of dirt in the corners, everything. Do we really need to worry about, having perfect UVs around all these pieces? Because it would be a nightmare to deal with. So we don't even have to unwrap this. Let's just planar map from the front. So I'm just going to go with, I hit X again to bring up the search, and we're just going to go with a UVW map modifier. So it's just going to apply itself correctly to begin with. You can see that it's applied this this gizmo on here. Okay, so there it is. I hit 1 to get into the sub-object gizmo, and it's just mapping it from the front, and it'll actually look like basically 1-to-1 UV space. We don't need an unwrap modifier at all. I'm going to put one on just so you can see what we've got. And here it is. It's mapped perfectly into the space. It's exactly what we're looking for. Now, we want to be able to pack all this together with the amp pieces, but I like to unwrap the pieces separately, each one. So that one's unwrapped now. We don't need to do anything else there. I'm just going to go Alt Q, go back, and we'll find some other pieces to do. And 3 to get out a sub-object in our unwrap and back into one of these corner pieces. Now this corner piece has been made with a symmetry modifier. If I just isolate again, Alt Q, you can see a symmetry in the middle here. It's really simple. I used a polygon model and I generated that. If you notice, I've got the pivot in the middle of the scene, so it's down here in the middle. If you show the grid, I actually left the pivot down here and moved it up to a corner. I did a shell, give it a bit of thickness, okay, and push it out so it's got the thickness. But you'll notice what I turned on in the shell is the select interfaces. And so it selected those interfaces, then a delete mesh, because I don't need those interfaces in the end. They're going to be hidden into the body of the amp. So I don't need those there. So nice procedural way of being able to handle getting rid of them. Shell, tell it to select interfaces, delete the mesh. Threw in a mesh select here to turn off the selection going up the stack so that I could chamfer it, and I just wanted a little bit of chamfer on it. If you notice, I haven't used any major segments. I actually turned it to try, and I just left it on try. And the reason I didn't try and round it out is this piece is so small. You'd never know that this thing, wasn't actually rounded off in the end. Now I had to pull the minimum angle because if you have the minimum angle down, what you could end up with is everything getting chamfered. So I took it up so it's just below 90 somewhere, and you can see it's now just doing the corners. Smoothing angle, you might want to turn that up so that we get everything smoothed around those edges. If it's down too low, you're going to start getting that, looking like that. So I just crank the smooth angle up so that we, get this nice rounded edges. That's what you would expect anyways, right? And then we're going to throw the symmetry modifier on it so that we can sim it out to the other sides. And of course, I've got all X, Y, and Z's, and you know, do a little bit of messing around with your where the pivot point is of the actual center point, right? So you're just going into the gizmo, and with the gizmo going on in that, you can now move that around. You can move it up and down, and you can change where those pieces are. So I literally just centered that to the amp using the Alt A, so the align, and aligned it up to the amp so it's dead center on the amp. And it was that simple to be able to get it to fit in the right place. So back to these, how do you unwrap them quickly and smartly? Well, we've got the chamfer. That shouldn't be a big issue. So I'm going to do it above the chamfer. And I'm going to do one piece. So I'm just going to go and do unwrap. And we're going to get this piece. You'll notice it's got UVs on there. So Control A, select all. And I'm just going to go quick planar map to get rid of them. We don't need anything more than that. I'm just going to pop that open. And I'm just going to do a really quick, quick peel on it to bring that out for us. So there you go. That's been quick peeled. That's unwrapped. That's done now at this point. We don't need to do any more on here other than the fact that they're all right on top of one another. Now I could go and break those up if I want, but I'm going to pack these in with the rest of the cabinet. So it'll unpack when I do that. When I do the pack on all those, it's going to break all the pieces up at that point. I don't need to break them all up now. Didn't even need to do it with the amp, frankly. So I just wanted to show the process. So that's good. I can just move on now and find all the rest of the pieces. There's all these little tiny ones. And same thing, what we've got is a symmetry going on here. And I just, basically put these little tiny pieces in here. And then it's been, placed all the way around. Again, with symmetry, exactly the same thing. I'm just going to unwrap this right where it is. Just going to open it up. You'll see that I've got all these pieces. They're kind of ugly the way they're done again. I'm going to say select all. I'm just going to quick planar map those, and then I'm just going to flatten them down. But you see that they've actually got interior pieces underneath them. Do we need that there again? Do we need those faces? So maybe we should do some cleanup and delete those. That might be wise. So let's just go back. I'm going to go down to editable poly and into face mode. And each one of them has a number of faces. You don't want to go around picking them all. Okay, it's quite a pain, obviously. So we can use select by angle, and a small angle number will just allow us to be able to select the interior of all of those, hit delete, and then go back up to the unwrap. Now, if you go back to the unwrap, you're going to notice it's all reset. And that's because the poly count changed. This is one of those things I was mentioning in video 1. I know what I can get away with and what I can't. So you got to learn what's going to break it. Unwrap was unwrapping specific numbered polygons. You just change the poly count. Unwrap takes a fit and just resets it all. That's okay. This is really easy to fix. I'm just going to grab all these and I'm just going to go ahead and just flatten them down. Done. That one's done as well. And again, we're not going to worry about the symmetry here because they're all going to unpack as well once we start packing everything together. Alt Q again. Back to all the other pieces. So I'm going to go and grab some more of these outside cabinet pieces. All this inside stuff I'm going to leave on different shaders, but I'm going to grab all these pieces on the outside and just handle those for now, then we'll get to packing. So the handle on the side of the amp, I've just flattened these ones down. That was easy. It's hollow. This piece, the way I've built it right now, frankly, isn't the easiest way to unwrap it. So this is one of those cases, again, when you get a model ever sent to you, you need to inspect and figure out how it's been modeled. Hopefully they've done things like leave the stack intact. Unfortunately, far too many people just collapse everything down to polygons and then go and try and unwrap it. That's a nightmare to try and flatten out properly. And it can actually happen for you without doing anything whatsoever. So if we go down to the bottom of the stack here, you can see I only made half of it that used the spline mirror. And so I can easily turn on generate mapping coordinates and then spline mirror, but that's going to mirror the UVs for end to end. I don't want to be able to, I want to be able to paint it a little bit differently, let's say from end to end, and I don't want it to do that. So what I'm actually going to do is turn off render build here, spline mirror it to the other side. And then what I can do is use a sweep modifier. So X, and I'll just type sweep. And I'll drop that sweep on there, and we'll choose cylinder out of here. So we've got a cylinder, and we'll take the settings down so it's not crushing into itself in the corners and everything. And all you got to do is simply turn on generate mapping coordinates. Looks like I've been using sweep before and it was already on. So make sure you turn that on. It's unwrapped. Let's take a look at it, although we don't need the unwrap again. Let's just have a look at what the unwrap looks like. And you'll notice it's put a seam down one place. Now that may not be where you want it, but what's cool in sweep is you could actually take the angle, and if we took it to negative 45 degrees, and I'm just going to do a reset here, and let's take a look at the seam, and I'm just going to isolate that. You can see that it's now there, 45 degrees hidden there. I'm never going to see that. Maybe put it 90 degrees, put it right around the back. You'd never see it. So what does it actually look like? It's that. It's already flattened out. And if you just say unfold, there it is. It's basically unfolded from end to end. Now we're going to be unfolding it when we do the whole pack. So I'm not going to worry about it again. I'm just going to leave it. I don't need an unwrap for no given reason. Maybe I want that sweep again to be negative 90. So it pushes it all the way to the back. And there you go. There it is all the way to the back. It's symmetried. It's on the other side. We're never going to see both handles at the same time, so I could actually texture them identical and leave these on top one another. When I pack it, though, it's going to pack itself, and they won't be that way unless I went and forced them back on top one another. You'll see when we get there. So, what about some of these other pieces? Well, this is a plate. Does it need a back? If you notice, I got rid of it. Okay, I used an extrude and I turned off. So it's a rectangle. In this case, was simply, the corner radius turned up. So we can set the corner radius to whatever we want. I use an extrude, and because I didn't need the inside panel to worry about, I turned off the cap start, and that's it. So that we don't have the inside of that. Now I can turn on generate mapping coordinates on this. And again, let's take a look at that. And if you notice, it's given us all these seams. Do I want that? So let's just go Control A, select it all because we're in polygon mode, quick planar map, and see what happens when I flatten it down with the quick peel. And you'll notice it stretched that edge around the outside. That's probably cleaner. That's going to work perfectly fine for us. There's nothing wrong with that now. I'm just going to turn that off, Alt Q. And I think the last piece I just have are these little guys here. They're going to be the same thing as all the other ones we've done.